Now, y'all might be thinking, mega sus, what are you doing not posting more videos on angry green hairy men? Well, some of you might have noticed that in my more recent videos, this old man keeps appearing in them. And considering that Plants vs Zombies is going a bit... I came up with the idea to experiment with some new content, and because of this, some of you might be asking, who is this old man? Well, as a very basic and quick summary, this old mate over here is Jeremy Clarkson, and he is by far the most unhinged person on this whole show out of the three blokes there. He constantly applies speed and power to every single situation, and even though he is the oldest and main host of the whole show,
have you ever put toothpaste on your testicles?
He acts like he's 2 years old. Then there's James May, who is undoubtedly the world's most interesting, boring man alive.
This is great, it's like being at a rave.
And of course Richard Hammond, who is not only the shortest one, but also the most destructive. The three blokes hosted a ridiculous yet stupidly hilarious car show where the main objective is just to see how many people they could offend.
Just imagine waking up and remembering you're Mexican.
If you're thinking of coming to America, this is what it's like. You got your Comfort Inn, you got your Best Western, you got your Red Lobster where you eat.
You look like a gay cowboy, and you look like a gay terrorist.
Everybody's very fat, everybody's very stupid, and everybody's very rude.
While also making sure that you have a very good laugh watching it. But the absolute best episodes from the show are the specials. The specials were movie-length episodes in which the trio would go on some kind of road trip, often in pretty crap cars, and then be given ridiculous challenges to beat to justify that the car that they chose wasn't complete crap. So that's what the video's about. Oh yeah, and I suppose that they had like a thing where they got kicked off Top Gear, so then they had to start a new show. But no, just don't worry about that, just let me get straight into the video, alright? I'm getting sick of this intro. What happened with this one? Seriously. The whole idea of this one as well is just inherently more shit than the rest of them. Like before it we had lorries going over rivers and used cars scaling up volcanoes. Where in this one we've got French cars going through a forest for an hour. Okay, that is a bit harsh. I mean, I did like the opening and stuff with the propeller car, but that's it. That's the only compliment I can really give it because it's just so incredibly boring. Which is insane because there's a whole scene where they catapult a Citroen and defuse a bomb in the back of one, which are obviously both very scripted. The cars are also just incredibly forgettable. Jeremy drives the Aquaman van, Hammond drives a red shoe, and James drives like a blue thing, I don't know. They also decided to bring 19 cars instead of 3. And not only that, but Carnage Trios, the French special, wasn't even filmed in France. What an absolute load of hippo shit. You know the special's gonna be bad when they start talking about politics as soon as the special starts. This is also the most disliked special out of any of them, just because of how scripted and pointless the whole thing feels. Because if you dared thought that this was a 1,300 mile journey across the world's most dangerous roads in the world, well guess what, you can
Shove it up your ugly ass! You heard us right, shove it up your ugly ass!
And you don't think that at first because you look at all the nice cars they bring this time and you think, okay, they're gonna be using those a fair bit, aren't they? Then we get on this train and everything comes to a screeching halt because we proceed to knock off 1,000 miles off of this journey while replacing everything with much more forced scripting. Literally all it is just cocking about for the sake of cocking about. It's only a little bit above Carnage Trios because once we get to the actual Himalayas bit, while it does get a bit more interesting, it's a bit too little too late at that point. The most epic bit is definitely the modded cars because, you know, it's like funny.
You're old.
As soon as this one finished, I literally forgot everything that happened in it. Some specials I decided to not include were like International Buffoons Vacation and Top Gear Ground Force. And in all honesty, I probably should not have included the Winter Olympics special. And technically it is the first special releasing in 2006, but instead of this being a 3-car and a destination road trip, this isn't a road trip at all, we're just doing random crap in the snow. I also had to watch this off YouTube in rubbish quality because the episode wasn't available on Amazon Prime. Anyways, don't get me wrong, I really like the ice hockey game and especially the rocketed mini segment, but the rest, I don't know, I kinda just forgot skull emoji. And I know that's really lame and I barely even shared an opinion, but I don't know what to say, seriously. I ended up having a really tough time picking between which of these two specials were worse, because Winter Olympics gave me dementia and was really boring, while Middle East was way too overambitious with its predecessors, and after you watch it, you just think to yourself,
what the fuck is this piece of shit?
But thankfully it's nowhere near as bad as what I remembered. It's more like it's got similar issues to the India special of all things. The cars aren't really that memorable and it's definitely not one of the funniest specials out there, but hey, it's a lot better than the India special. However, there is one thing I'd like to talk about, and that is the first proper accident ends up happening in this special, in which James cracks his head open on a rock, and it catches you so off guard that it's almost kind of emotional, because he completely forgets where he is and where they're going. Thankfully he gets a med kit and he's all good to keep going for the rest of the special. Definitely the highlight of the special, even if that sounds very wrong. Okay, spoilers over now. Yeah, sorry for not giving an actual review and just contradicting myself over and over again, but I mean like, it's the Middle East special, like 5 out of 10, piss off.
Pro tip number 80.
Patagonia special is basically the child that had diarrhea at his birthday party. In my opinion, this special has two sides, one of which is a stressful and super intense controversy including protests and destruction, and the other half... This one was on the absolute verge of being a classic, but it just fell short. It's got bloody gorgeous scenery, excellent looking cars, and a surprise amount of emotion to it. But with that brilliance comes a 2-hour long special which just feels like a lot of padding and nothing really happens. Now about that thing I said earlier. Jeremy, James and Richard were all being hunted down by angry Argentinian protesters. Residents from Ushuaia thought that Jeremy's number plate H982FKL was a reference to the 1982 Falklands War. However, this was not the case, as that was actually just the plate the Porsche came with originally. However, they did not care at all and started pelting eggs and rocks at the camera crew's vans. I hope I didn't just sound like an underpaid history teacher, but believe me, there is a lot to unpack. As a sum up, this is just a very 6 out of 10-ish sort of special. There are so many issues, but then there's also a lot of good things to try and balance it out, so it's very confusing. Wait, never mind, I take it all back, it's a masterpiece. Hammond's got the goofier horn.
We are the pirates who don't do anything.
Dude, the whole idea of the Madagascar special is completely random. A massive hunt follows the trio picking 3 of the most different cars from one another, a Bentley Continental GT, a Caterham 7, and a very sussy looking Ford Focus. And not because it's black, but it's because it's got these triangular tracks on it, which rather surprisingly didn't work out too well. And we are on a mission to look for pirates' buried treasure in Djibouti. So this has now gone from a fun, unpredictable adventure to a possibly very scripted one. Don't get me wrong, it is very funny still, the cars are very memorable, and I did like the whole Madagascar vibe to it. Not to mention that the second third of it has really good drama, surprisingly. But man, there's just not much stuff I can really go into detail without spoiling for you lot.
No, Starving Marvin, that's my pet.
Feed the World or Mozambique special is a bit of a weird one, where instead of doing a normal road trip, we're trying to feed this starving village with fish. So Jeremy, James and Richard have to strategize how they're going to keep the fish alive so that they can bring it from Maputo to Bingo. Jeremy drives a Nissan pickup with an ice bucket on the roof, James in a Mercedes Benz with a fish tank in the back, which may I add might look good, but... And Hammond brings a motorbike with what I can only describe as an 18th century clothes dryer on the back hanging fish. My main issue with this special though is that it's way too brisk for its own good. It's only a 200-mile road trip and it clocks in at about 50 minutes overall, which is a shame as it was actually quite fun. It also kind of just ends. Although on the plus side, because of its such short length, you can actually watch the whole thing on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure isn't really legal, but whatever. Yep, had to watch this on my crappy little HP laptop. And you know what, mate? This one's pretty goodish, alright, Kay. In this one, old mate Jeremy and James are in a race against Richard to see who can get to the top of the North Pole the quickest. Clarkson and May use a Toyota Hilux, which is really epic because my family has one and they are very epic. Meanwhile, Richard and some random woman use a bunch of sled dogs, which are now definitely dead by now. I definitely think the special is well made and it's definitely funny, but the main issue is that just because we're going across the North Pole, there's nothing really to interact and it can get kind of lifeless sometimes. Also, yes, in case you're wondering, they were the first people to cross the North Pole with a car. So mate, it's not a masterpiece or anything, but hey, it is a pretty good achievement.
Looking down, are we looking down or are we looking... I don't know. We're looking down. Yeah.
After years and years of making fun of 1970s American cars, the trio finally decide that in Lochdown, they'll try them out for themselves. And my god, what a change of pace. They decide to, instead of making it an epic, hardcore adventure, they decided to make a quaint little road trip through Scotland. And the cars are... Jeremy Clarkson in the Lincoln Continental Mark IV, James May in the Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and Richard Hammond in the Buick Riviera Botel. And as expected, these cars are completely unreliable and always do something stupid, but that's I think what makes them so interesting to watch in this special. They all kept their cars for the first time, and Drive Tribe even made a whole video on Hammond trying to start up the Buick again. They definitely decided to needlessly pad out the special with this other random crap with different American cars, and for whatever reason, IMDb decided that this was the top review to show. I thought there would be with the castles, but barely a single room was shown.
What a load of old shit.
You take some chocolate and some lobster and some eggs and some pie, and then you mix it in your body and shit it all out.
Next up, we got the Beach Buggy Boys, aka an Ambidia special, and I mean, like, yeah, it's really good. This was the first Grand Tour special that they ever did, so they really had to make this one good, and I think they did a really good job with it. In this special, instead of using cars like they usually do, they decided to do a thing called a beach buggy, where they take this old shoe of a car known as a Volkswagen Beetle, and turn it into this, this, and this. This might sound pretty anticlimactic, but seriously, I don't have a lot to say about this special, even if I do think it's probably the best episode from Series 1. Probably my favourite part though is in part 1 where they're driving through the desert, and it looks like Hammond's had a serious accident only for this to happen.
Seriously? Shit, he's gone. Oh, me. How the did you get down that? With my eyes shut!
And surprisingly, James decided to keep his beach buggy, even though he set it on fire.
It's a beach buggy, and that's busted. Amazing!
You know, mate, Botswana Special reminds you of the time that I swanted in the bot. Everything from here and ranging on is just epic, like the best. James gets a Mercedes 230 E-Class, which is pretty good until he has to strip it naked. Clarkson's in the Lancia Beta Coupe, which ended up being rubbish and being held together by a single piece of cardboard. The standout is definitely Richard in the Opel Kadett though, because it's such a random car to get, but he ended up loving it so much he kept it. Hell, he even named it Oliver and ranked it above every single other car he used in Top Gear. There's something about this special, it's just so well made, it's so funny, the salt pans bit's great, it's just such a good special. Unfortunately, it does suffer from being a bit too short, and it has a similar problem to the Polar special where it does have a bit of filler in it. The presenters have also said that this was their favourite special because it was one of the first ones. Also, with Jeremy and his candor, what do you think would happen if they all just, well, fell out? Yeah, baby, Davey McFraby, KBs, we're in the top 10 now. And yeah, Columbia's special is really good. It's a bit diffy talking about this one regularly as it is 2 hours long and a two-parter, but the main consensus with this one is that Clarkson, Hammond and May all have to become wildlife photographers for Amazon's screensaver. James brings a 4x4 Fiat Panda which not only rhymes but can go through rainforests quite easily. Jeremy brings... well, I don't want to offend anyone here, but...
Isn't that a very popular car with the gay community?
Is it?
Oh yeah, there was a thing in America where they had the top 10 LGBT cars, and that came third or something.
one of the gayest cars ever. And shockingly, he decided to keep the Jeep Wrangler and bring it back to his farm. And right, mate, I'll give you 15 seconds to guess what Richard bought. He brought a 4x4 Chevrolet Silverado monster truck, which surprisingly wasn't very practical. They all modified their cars as well, which looked really sick and were quite memorable. It's funny, it's interesting, it's got a great soundtrack, and Jeremy accidentally walks in on a man and a donkey during its private time.
Could you ask, was that young man having relations with that donkey?
One pair of pants later.
They say yes.
And then he proceeds to have his flashbacks to his days in the Korean War.
We're leaving. No, leave. No. What? We're leaving.
It seemed like a really nice little place. Jeremy, why do we have to go? Have you upset someone?
Either committed some terrible faux pas or he's got sunstroke. He's very red in the face.
From the wise words of Video Game Donkey, I can assure you the USA Special is a classic. Because there's not a hope in high hell this would ever be able to come out today. Especially with the roadkill challenge and the endless jokes about Americans.
It's a big ask to get him down to 1,000. Might offer him a burger.
Literally the closest competitor to the funniest special is the first one, which is a damn good achievement. The Chevy Camaro, the Dodge Ram and the Cadillac Brougham sedan are all fantastic cars and they perfectly fit into the presenter's shoes. This makes the Winter Olympics look like compost compared to this one. It will always be the first special in my mind. The highlight is definitely the Alabama scene, which I'm not going to spoil, just watch the video for yourself, alright? Overall, this is a fantastic special, which I probably would have ranked higher if they would have made it just a little bit longer.
Holy shit, that's terrible.
Okay, I have to speedrun this one before I go to bed, so let's go. The Grand Tour Euro Crash, or Eastern Europe special, is the special of all time. It is so epic, so good, and it's the most recent one to come out according to the timing of this video, however you say that, I don't know. The cars are the Mitsuoka Lisade by Jeremy Clarkson, the Chevy SSR, which is a convertible pickup truck, which is like a really goofy R, but whatever, and the Crosley CC convertible, which is the worst car they've ever had in any of these specials. James had to put up with this constantly, where it sounded like this the entire time. Honestly, it's got like this archery stuff, and it's got like this epic backup car. It was fantastic, honestly. I really like this one. I definitely recommend checking it out. Only complaints is it kind of pads out in the middle of it, like kind of wears out a little bit. But other than that, like, it's absolutely fantastic. And that airplane ending, like, oh my god, it's so epic. Done.
Number 7. Student watches.
Before you say anything, okay, Africa special is very special, and it is very Africa. But for me personally, this one is not number 1. Props to this special for not being mediocre though. I mean, this special practically shits in the competition's mouth as it was Middle East and India's special. In fact, here is everything specifically epic about Africa. The most fun and unique thing about this special is that because of Africa's not so luxurious hotels, they have to actually live and sleep in their own cars. Hammond goes for a kitchen inside of his Subaru Impreza WRX, which is very epic until he has to feed everyone nothing but beans. May has a half library, half tool shed in his Volvo 850R. Jeremy just has this huge bedroom, beers and toilet inside of his BMW 528i, and they are all on a quest to find the true source of the River Nile. Overall, it's very adventurous, very funny, but a surprisingly good soundtrack. I mean, come on, it's the Shakira special.
Say the line, Bart!
I love semen!
Before you say anything, that is actually what it's called, and it is the best title they could have picked. The Southeast Asia special truly sticks out for one specific reason. We're in boats. And the Die Hard community had a bit of a fit over this for some reason. Me personally, I thought that this was a very fun, very cheeky special, and it's just overall a good time. Hammond bring a Scarab speedboat nicknamed the Razzle Dazzle, which later got renamed into something a lot more inappropriate. Jeremy bring the giant PBR, which ended up being kinda good actually, and James ended up bringing a clinically depressing slow antique. The climax is super intense as the three of them need to get across the ocean, and to put the chocolate sauce on the sundae, it's even got a banging intro. Mate, the Vietnam special is so good it made me forget what the 15th letter of the alphabet is. For the first time in forever, instead of using cars, we're going to be using motorbikes. And the bikes are...
I bought this. It's a Minsk.
the rugged Russian Minsk, which ends up getting painted pink.
It's an ancient Honda 50 Super Cub, the greatest motorcycle in history.
I mean, that is kind of disputable though, because it wasn't really able to float, and I mean, I kind of forgot about it. And good old Jeremy bought
A motorcycle.
And technically this is a scooter.
And unfortunately it was not the Porsche Pim 2B, it was actually a Vespa. This is also considered the best Top Gear special by a fair margin of people. And unironically saying this special is straight up art. I do think personally there are better specials than this one, but like seriously, this one is just incredible in almost every way. The scenery, the soundtrack, the final scene's hilarious. It's just a masterpiece.
It's those goddamn Mongolian again!
Survival of the Fattest, or Mongolia special, is the highest rated episode ever, and it's simply because they've never ever done something like it before. In this special, the trio are dropped off in the vast emptiness of Mongolia, where they have to build a car from scratch. And after all the hard work, do you want to know what it looks like? Yes everyone, meet John. I won't spoil too much of this one because not only will it save me editing time, but I definitely feel like as if you should go clean-minded going into this one. It's truly something to behold. Kicking off the top three, we have Bolivia special, and oh my shitty ditties, this one is fantastic. So the three boys are dropped off in Bolivia, where they can't really do much until, oh my god, look, it's their crappy 4x4. The three old battered up cars was a Suzuki Jimny, a Range Rover, and a Toyota Land Cruiser, and they were all very terrible. This is also by far the most action-packed special, starting off in a rainforest, going through the world's most dangerous highway and scaling up and down an active volcano. There's just never a dull moment, it just keeps getting more and more insane. This is also the first time we got proper vehicle mods, and I mean, well, I'm kind of running out of synonyms for good, so you know what, it's crack.
Welcome to Bottom Gear, mates. Today on Bottom Gear, I drive a silent electric car, Hammond uses a fucking toilet, and James commits arson.
Okay, I swear to God we're nearly done, just please stay with me. Top Gear Burma Special is the epicest epic that ever epicked in the entire epicking universe, where instead of driving wussy little cars, we're driving big old lorries. And you can tell it's gonna be a good time when you're already listening to this brand new banger.
Alright, I say
Jeremy gets an Isuzu TX tipper lorry, which ends up being the best out of the dysfunctional bunch. Hammond also brings an Isuzu TX, with the only difference it being extremely ugly and it weighs more than Lizzo. And James bought a Hino FB110 with a crane attached to it, which he just thinks is a lovely
Heap of dog.
and they have to drive 1,200 miles across Burma to get to Thailand, build a bridge over the River Kwai to support all 3 of their lorries and drive over it. And everything the special throws at you is amazing. It's very funny, very fun, yada yada yada. You're all just waiting for number 1, so I won't leave you hanging anymore.
Top Gear is building a bridge over the River Cock.
I think this might be the biggest jump of quality between movies since the Mask duology, because straight after this piece of filth we got this. And for me personally, this is the perfect special. Not only is it the funniest special, not only does it have the coolest cars, not only does it have the best scenery, but it even had not 1 but 2 of the most jaw-dropping accidents out of the entire show. And while we're still on the topic of spoilers, man, that ending is just an absolute powerhouse of emotion. Okay, spoilers over now. As I was saying earlier, the cars are truly epic. The Subaru Impreza, Mitsubishi Evo and Audi RS4 are just such good cars. I mean, look at them, they look tastier than your grandma's sausage rolls. I mean, unless your grandma's dead, then they might not taste that good. And with that, we are finally finished. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and definitely subscribe, as this took me 3 months and I was the only person working on it, apart from my cousin helping out in 1 bit. And here's a little tier list just to make sure I've hammered home all my points correctly. And on that note, 现在已经到bombshell结束，各位晚安。